Thank you. So allow me to take the honor and pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker for today, this philosophical conference. Of course, acknowledging and realizing that it's not easy in the midst of a lot of things and duties that he has found time to come and spend his day with us today. Honorable, most welcome once again to Tangaza. We are happy for accepting our invitation, and we are of course very happy for the role that you play in our country, Kenya, in society, and especially ensuring that we have a fair and just system in Kenya, and we also have, you do everything to make sure that to help us respect the rule of law. We know you and we know what you do, and being a Catholic, and we are a Catholic institution, we are very happy and proud of your work, and we welcome you to Tangaza to share with us some of these insights that are also going to help us join in your footsteps in ensuring that we have a just society and a fair rule of law for everyone to benefit in our country. Karibu sana. Good morning. Good morning. I recognize all the protocols, the Reverend Father Professor, and other distinguished academics here, the university administrators, and also the student fraternity and the other participants. I'm most grateful to you for honoring you with this occasion. And I'm happy that I have been able to make it. So, being invited to make a keynote statement is a very, very strong vote of confidence in somebody, and it's also a challenge. So, when I received the invitation to give the keynote address at this very important event today, whose theme is University Education and Emergent Contemporary Challenges, a philosophical outlook, I cautiously wondered loudly to myself, why me? Given my understanding that, broadly speaking, a philosophical outlook of something is a person's fundamental beliefs about or overall vision of or attitude towards the same thing, my mind raced to the book of Genesis, where Moses, the prophet of Yahweh, who was chosen to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, expressing a sense of inadequacy, questions why God, the Almighty, had chosen him for such a difficult task. Equally, I asked myself, why me? When the country and even the world is so full of better placed individuals to make the keynote address at this very important occasion. Why would my fundamental beliefs about or overall vision of or attitude towards university education and emergent contemporary challenges matter to anybody, let alone to a distinguished university audience? And why was the topic so broad, even open-ended in terms of region? Imagine contemporary challenges to university education where? In Kenya, East Africa, Africa, Polynesia, the Americas, everywhere, nowhere. I didn't know where to start. Finding no answer to my questions, I made my already grave situation worse by attempting desktop research on the topic. The answers I found were many, very many. These range from climate change, the internet rendering universities redundant in the world, artificial intelligence, inadequate financial resources affecting the successful management curriculum, and so forth.
The most interesting was the philosophical outlook that reduced everything to parents setting out to raise good kids, but not good adults. Yeah, there was this guy, the guy was of the view that everything in the world, not just university education, would not be facing any challenges if each successive generation of parents set out to raise good adults and not good kids. I found that close at home because of the recent condemnation. Kenyan parents who birthed the Gen Z have received about the creeping but unstoppable Gen Z revolution for good governance in Kenya. These Kenyan parents have been condemned and continue to be condemned, including from the highest office in the land, for the demands for good governance being made by the Gen Z. It's now popularly understood that the Gen Z are what they are because the parents failed to raise a generation. Those in power, who the Gen Z are boldly holding to account, including through cartoons and other satirical forms of creative exposition, for the bad things that have happened and continue to happen under their watch, are angry at these Kenyan parents. These Kenyan parents are being condemned for raising their kids to remain children and not to become responsible adults. Otherwise, Gen Z would not claim to be tribeless had they been raised to become responsible adults who know that tribal considerations dwarf merit in elections or appointment of adults to public office. Otherwise, the Gen Z would not claim to be fearless had their parents trained them to be good adults who know that all political power comes from God and that the fear of God, and by extension those in power, is the beginning of wisdom. If only these parents had set out to raise good adults and not good kids, the Gen Z could not baselessly claim to be leaderless, partyless, and whatever else less. Now, since currently most university students are Gen Z, I will reflect upon a major challenge these students face as they pursue higher education in Kenya. A look at my daily WhatsApp and other text messages reveals a grim reality at our universities. Students have been reduced to destitutes who beg to survive. I wonder how they are able to pursue an education under such conditions. And maybe I may add that we have also had a clarion call from many quarters that some university courses are useless and should be dropped. And I'm left to wonder, if we drop these courses, will it still be a university like high school? Because a university is supposed to be a repository of knowledge that human beings have, but we've had a lot of politicians saying that some courses in the universities are useless. And they claim that if those courses are dropped, maybe the budgets of those universities can be reduced. I personally differ. Because I believe that the budgets of education have to be increased. And the answer lies in something that the agency have been crying about. Today, many students are not able to go to universities because the government financing mechanisms have literally collapsed. The agency have been persistently loud on the question of public debt. How did we get to that point where we are trapped in debt? Is it a question of bad governance as claimed by the Gen Z? Where did the rain begin beating us? So, in this keynote, I will attempt to answer those important questions. Fortunately, my invitation to come here today came a couple of months ago, and that allowed me to have a sober interrogation of our debt problem. A matter of fact, Kenya has a debt stock of 11.5 trillion shillings. With repayment averages around 1.7 trillion annually. And that is against actual annual tax revenue collection averaging Kenya shillings 2.1 trillion. You can do the math. Subtract 1.7 from 2.1. And you'll see that these are created a situation where the tax revenue is inadequate to repay the debts and meet the government's operating and capital expenditure. And to make matters worse, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance violates the law even further by borrowing to repay debts. Such as when it recently borrowed more Eurobond loans to repay earlier ones. Was it the law to blame, or those whom the people delegated executive and legislative power to? From the evidence I unearthed, the law is innocent. Article 220 Clause 1 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 requires the budgets of national and county governments to contain A, estimates of revenue and expenditure, differentiating between recurrent and development expenditure. Very simple. Give us the revenue you have, give us the expenditure, separate your current what is usually the consumables from your development expenditure, is capital expenditure. That article, section B, requires that the budget, after having estimates of revenue and expenditure, the budget should have proposals for financing anticipated deficit for the period to which they apply. So if the budget is not balanced, if the revenue, initially, first of all, the requirement is that you should be able to live within your means. Your taxes should be able to finance your government. But should there be a shortfall, then that budget must contain a proposal on how the deficit is going to be met. That means anything to do with borrowing must come with the budget when it comes to Parliament for approval. And number 6 says it should contain proposals regarding borrowing and other forms of public liability that will increase public debt during the following year. You remember the budget situation done in the previous year, then it's implemented in the coming year. So you should be able to look at your budget and see what has been borrowed and what has been, and whatever. But you've heard of late people saying, we don't know how much was borrowed. None other than His Excellency the President has appointed a task force headed by the former Auditor General, Mr. Ibaduko, to look into Kenya State stock and tell us how much have we borrowed. Fairly strange when the is very clear that every borrowing should be in the budget. So besides being an express requirement of the Constitution that all borrowing must be included in the annual budget, which Parliament passes and the President assents to in law every year. The thing is here that the budget is a law. A proposal comes to Parliament from the executive, that's the President and his people. Parliament looks at it and approves it or rejects it. When once approved, it goes to the President for signature for it to become law. So the budget is a law. It compels, it must be obeyed. It's a law made by Parliament and assented by the President. But you'll find that, away from that, when you interrogate our budget, our debt issues, you'll find that there's a lot of borrowing that the government makes. But before you go there, I want to note that other than being required that the borrowing must be in the budget, the government cannot just borrow for anything. There is a law called the Public Finance Management Act, Section 15. Clause 2, paragraph C and 15, clause 3 of that law is very clear that all borrowing, they call the midterm, within the borrowing within the year, must finance development expenditure and only cash flow management. Assuming the taxes are late coming, the government is allowed to issue treasury bills, but we must be paid within the year that are issued. So they can borrow a bit of money, but as soon as the taxes come in, it pays back that short-term borrowing. The other borrowing that you can make is borrowing to put up a building like this for government, to build a road, to build a school, to build a dam. The government cannot borrow to do immunization. It cannot borrow to build a hospital. It cannot borrow to pay doctors' salaries. So that's how the borrowing structure is. All those other current things must be paid by taxes. So, under the same Act, Section 21 of the Act, defines development expenditure as expenditure for the creation and renewal of assets. Nothing else can you borrow from. When you go to Section 1, I'm also trying to show what I'm saying is that short-term borrowing is borrowing by government by way of treasury bills, bank overdraft, or other instruments to cover temporary cash shortfalls and is repayable within 12 months. So I'm going to learn the law to show that the law is good. And now an interesting thing is that our budget, our debt, began ballooning or going haywire when the Jubilee government came in. From independence until the time President Kibaki left office, our debt stood at 2.7 trillion shillings. 2.7 trillion shillings. Today, our debt stands at close to 12 trillion shillings. So, from independence, 2014, about some 50 years, we borrowed only 2.7. Now, when you go back and look at the law as it stands, that borrowing must be in the budget and must be approved by Parliament and signed into law by the President. If you take that as the litmus test, you'll find that over the same period, Parliament only approved about 2.8 trillion over the 12 years. The question is, where did the other 9.8 trillion come from? And these are interpretation of government documents. They are available on the internet. Just that people in Kenya don't read. We don't take knowledge, and that's why we have formed commissions to do an inquiry of what has been published. So I just read the documents. So around when Jubilee came to power, they did one very critical thing. Under the Constitution, Article 206, it's very clear. But when Jubilee came to power, they amended. The law requires that any money the government receives must be put in what they call the consolidated fund or the account of government with the central bank. All money should go there, and then Parliament should determine how that money is to be used through the budget proposed by the President and these people. And finally, the control of budget, using the Appropriation Act, which is the way government shares the money, approves the withdrawal of money from the consolidated fund. But the Jubilee guys thought that was maybe not good, so they amended the Public Finance Management Act, created sections 50 clause 7, C and D, B, C and D, which allows the Minister for Finance to borrow money and open accounts outside the country and deposit the money there. Remember, the Constitution says any money you borrow, a grant or a loan, or anything you get as government, even a gift, it must come to the consolidated fund so that it can be under the supervision of Parliament and the supervision of the control of budget. Now, after they did that, you'll find that our debt, which used to grow almost as a plateau, takes on an angle like this. Where we are today at about 12 trillion shillings. So, once that was amended, the government began hearing of things called the Eurobond. These are commercial loans. We had never borrowed commercial loans before. This was the Eurobond. And borrowed money and kept that money outside the country. Over time, a total of USD 7.1 billion or 923 billion Kenya shillings at the current rate was borrowed over. The initial borrowing was 2 billion, about 60 billion Kenya shillings, and then over the few years it has grown to 7.1 billion US dollars, or 923 billion that we have today. And so the document called a summary statement of public debt for 2020-2023 financial year in foreign currency, which is available on the Treasury's, from the Treasury's Public Debt Management Office. The figures are what you see there. You can see from 2014 coming down how the money was borrowed and where the money was borrowed and how it was supposed to be repaid. In all that, you don't see the Eurobond. There's no trace of the Eurobond in that record. Until you get this is the Eurobond, the way it was borrowed over the years until it got to this point. But if you go through the Appropriations Act covering that period of time, you don't see this money approved by Parliament. This 923 billion Kenya shillings. You don't see it there. You also don't see what this money has done. Or you don't see evidence that this money, after it was borrowed outside there, it ever came back to the municipality of Kenya. So other than breaking the law, when borrowing this money, there's no evidence that this money came back to Kenya. And so you'll find that from this figure again, we look at it, you'll see how we've borrowed, what has been paid in tax revenues, gross expenditure and external loans, and then the borrowings from the Eurobonds, the way they stand there, they have not been factored into the budget. And so there are many documents which I've looked at, which I've put in my paper, which demonstrate that this money was not given to the domestic market. The other way debt has been created that is not sustainable is what we call appropriation in aid. When you look at our budget nowadays, you'll find that a lot of aid that's coming to Kenya is not being given in terms of money. The Americans will come and say, we are going to build the road from Mombasa to Nairobi at so much. Give us security. We'll bring our people. They'll build the road at our cost. We'll give you the road and then we'll give you the budget. We'll give you the debt. So a lot of money is now being brought in that kind whereby the donors are coming to do their things here. They don't give us the money, but they export their labor, they export everything, and we pay for them. It's like they're advancing money to us to buy from them. And that has become a major problem with our debt. It has also contributed to the ballooning of the debt. We have demonstrated in that table. So, now we've demonstrated that over the period of time, this is the kind of debt that we have borrowed from the various governments and what have you. And when you look at this paper, when I give it out, you'll see how the various ministries have been financed legitimately over the years. So when you look at the two tables I've just scanned through, you will see that they demonstrate that from 2014 to 2015 budget. Now, I've also shown how further money was recently borrowed last year, that the Eurobond loans wanted to be repaid and so they to go to the market and borrow and repay. Now, the Constitution is very clear that, under Article 214, that any public debt, and the public debt is loans and their costs, have to be paid directly from the consolidated fund, which means anytime taxes come, we pay off those things. Whereas it's clear that this money went out to pay that debt, we still went ahead and borrowed further money to pay our debt. We went as much as the law of Kenya says we cannot borrow to pay another debt. We did that last year, and we borrowed about 208 billion Kenya shillings, which has not come to this economy. And the justification is that because it was paying the debt in the Eurobond market, it was borrowed from the same market and used to pay the debt in the same market. But the fact of the matter is that an interrogation of our books reveals that money came from the consolidated fund to pay that debt. So where is that 2 or 8 billion shillings? So, also under the Public Finance Management Act, there's a requirement that the Cabinet Secretary publishes, every month publishes a document called a statement of actual revenue and the net expenditure to show how they are spent. Now, if you go again and interrogate those statements, you find that the budget Parliament passes is largely for PR purposes. The executive implements their own budget. And a practical case is you have seen the president touring a place. Then the local people challenge him and say, our bridge is broken. The president stands up and says, where's the minister, the PS Finance, where's the Minister of Finance? Can you allocate so much to fix this thing? It's not in the budget. Why is the president getting the money? Yet the law says that the president cannot spend any money, not even a coin, without approval of Parliament, and those things that he's approving are not there. So there's a lot of that that goes on. Another important thing to note is that Parliament has never approved domestic borrowing, which is a major concern among us. So, you notice that over the period of 10 financial years, money that has been borrowed outside the budget is some 6.9 trillion shillings. As I would have demonstrated here from the government, the various documents of government, and you'll see that Parliament approved only that. Parliament has not approved 2.79 trillion. Yet, what has been borrowed over and above is 6 trillion. So, when you look at that, you find that there's an amount of 4.6 trillion that was corruptly acquired under the reign of President Uhuru Kenyatta. That's from the financial year 2014 to 2022, 2014-2015 to the year 2021-2022. Debt amounting to 2.2 trillion was acquired under His Excellency, has been acquired under His Excellency William Ruto from the year 2022-2023 to the November 30th, 2024, the year 2024, November 30th. So that's the situation that we have. Now, when you factor in the costs and the loans and the repayments, you find that so far, our odious debt is in the figure of 16 trillion shillings. Remember, our economy is only about 3 trillion shillings. So basically what I'm saying is that the Kenyan government has been bankrupted by debt. And when I looked at I had read a longer document, but earlier on, I had not been told how much time I had. When I realized I had only 30 minutes, I began cutting this thing down. But when I shared the complete paper, you see a lot of stuff that I've been able to unearth. As a result of this invitation, I decided to look at that project debt and whether the DZ are crazy or not to demand accountability. So you come through and look at what we have as a people, you'll find that all this clamor for cutting down, downsizing universities, not funding universities, not doing, basically no services are being rendered in this country, is because there has been reckless borrowing under Uhuru Kenyatta, and reckless borrowing is continuing under William Ruto, in defiance of the law. And the main culprit of lending is the IMF. The IMF just comes and dumps money. If you look at all the IMF loans, none has been approved by Parliament. Which raises a moral question. If the people of Kenya have decided that borrowing will come through the door, that's what we shall pay. That's what we shall fund. And somebody brings in borrowing and claims to have borrowed money through the window. And you can't even see what that money has done. And you look at the lifestyles of these people, some are wearing watches of 40 million, belts of I don't know how many, 400,000 shillings. They are displaying the proceeds of theft. As a people, as the young Gen Z who are going to suffer the consequences of this thing. Some of us already have one leg in the grave. As you guys will still have both legs outside the grave. What are you up to? What are you going to do? That's the question. So these challenges we face within the university environment of funding, of all these things, students not being given loans, the schools, you have seen schools not getting the capitation they require, and all that, is traced to the mismanagement of our economy by Uhuru Kenyatta and by William Ruto. And somebody has to be held accountable. We live in a moral universe. These people were given a job, they raised the constitution, and undertook oath, made an oath. Depending on what they worship. They were told to choose what to worship and swear by it. And they did it. And they swore. But they have gone ahead and run this country like a criminal enterprise. Should they walk away scot-free? Are we going to pay these debts? And if we pay these debts, are we going to let them walk scot-free? So we have got officials and government officers who work under these people who are supposed to protect them, protect the public, the control of budget. When you read the documents on the control of budget, it's all nonsensical poetry. The Auditor General, the same. Press releases from the Ministry of Treasury, the same. Designed to conceal the fact that this money was stolen. They even have produced bank statements, claiming the bank statements came from the Citibank in New York and JP Morgan. An interrogation of these bank statements, which some of us have done, we recognized that these bank statements are forgeries. So when government publishes forgeries, what legitimacy does it have? And so, I've cut my paper short because of the time. But in my keynote address is a wake-up call to all of us not to accept nonsense. And if only Adam and Eve had said no to the devil, we would be in paradise. Thank you very much.